Fully Cinco de Mayo, folks, and welcome back to WrestleRant right here on the YouTube channel. Today I'm breaking down the 2014 WWE Extreme Rules pay-per-view as seen on the WWE Network. If you haven't already, make sure to go back and check out my other reviews right here on the channel of Extreme Rules 2009, which is available from last year, so you have to do some digging, but it's available in the WrestleRant video series from last year, as well as Extreme Rules 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013 from the last week and a half. So this is going to conclude the Extreme Rules review session before I move into my reviews of Judgment Day, starting with Judgment Day 1999 this Saturday. So exciting stuff, but nevertheless, Extreme Rules 2014, recording this on the Monday, so 1 year removed from the Extreme Rules 2014 pay-per-view. I really enjoyed this show, because WrestleMania 30 to me was kind of like a turning point. I know the spring season last year was not great, but it wasn't terrible either. It was a lot better than the winter, that's for sure. The fall-winter of 2013, 2014 was not great whatsoever, but I thought there was kind of like an era of change from WrestleMania 30 onward. The summer was great. I loved the summer last year. Hopefully this year's summer season is equally excellent. But the 2014 spring season, this show specifically kind of showed that the future was here and the future was now. It's kind of more evident in 2015 in my opinion. But on this show, if you notice, if you look at the results, everyone that won on this pay-per-view, from Cesaro, Rusev, Barrett, Shield, Bray Wyatt, Page, and Daniel Bryan, all of those people debuted either in 2010 or onward, or after that. So in the last 5 years, which is crazy considering the amount of veterans available on the show, from Rob Van Dam to R-Truth to all of Evolution, John Cena. It's nuts, Kane. So like the new wave of talent had arrived. So that's what I loved about this show. I really enjoyed it, and it continued the strong streak of extremely entertaining, no pun intended, Extreme Rules pay-per-views events. So kicking it off, it's not available on the broadcast on the pay-per-view broadcast itself. It's available also on the network just separately. The hour, I don't know if it's an hour long or half hour, whatever it is, the pre-show. So I would go out of your way to watch this match. I know it sounds crazy. The WLC match between El Torito and Hornswoggle, I, among many others, was expecting a train wreck of a matchup, but it ended up being a great, extremely pleasantly surprising matchup. With the interference from Los Matadores and 3MB, remember those guys? They put together a really, really fun pre-show match, and a lot of people, what a lot of people called one of, not the show-stealing match, that's kind of going, that's kind of exaggerating a little bit, but it was one of the better, more entertaining matches of the night. In my opinion, one of the best pre-show matches of all time. I know that's not saying much, because we don't often get great matches on the pre-show, but it's very underrated in my opinion, one of the more underrated matches of 2014. So go out of your way, I strongly suggest going out of your way to watch this match, available on the Extreme Rules, I think it's, like I said, half hour, not sure. Extreme Rules 2014 kickoff show, also available on the network. So kicking off the show itself was a triple threat elimination match pitting Cesaro, RVD, and Jack Swagger against each other. So the whole beef between these three guys going into the show is obviously Cesaro breaking away from Jack Swagger and siding with Paul Heyman, and breaking away from Zeb Coulter's troupe. And Rob Van Dam was kind of mixed in as well. I think RVD and Cesaro met in a semifinals match in the King of the Ring tournament, and RVD won, advancing to the finals after Jack Swagger got involved. So that kind of led to the three-way bout between these three guys on this pay-per-view. So not much storyline support between the three of them. But the match itself was good. They tried to make it Extreme Rules based by adding the elimination stipulation. Ooh, it's better than nothing. But I mean, these pay-per-views aren't really what they used to be. And I mean, I'm saying that like it used to be, like a long time ago. They used to be amazing. I mean, you go back to Extreme Rules 2008 or 2009. Every match in the show had a legitimate Extreme Rules stipulation, and some of them had stipulations in 2010 and 2011, like a hair match or country whipping match, which was kind of ridiculous. But the real Extreme Rules pay-per-views, what these pay-per-views should be modeled after, were the 08 and 09 installments, in my opinion. But still, though, like I said, a very well-wrestled matchup. I think Jack Swagger was the first one gone, leaving RVD and Cesaro. Yeah, it was Cesaro and RVD as the final two. Cesaro picking up the victory with the neutralizer to pick up the win. And this was before, in my opinion anyway, before Cesaro's momentum got hindered in the relationship with Paul Heyman, which everyone thought, myself included, I'm not excluding myself from this, was going to be epic, and then it ended up being a flop after Cesaro lost, and his losing streak actually kind of continued, or kind of kicked off at the Raw that I was at, so maybe I'm bad luck, but that was also an amazing Raw, though. It was at the June 30th Raw when he suffered his first singles loss against Kofi Kingston, and he continued to lose, and then it was a flop from there, and the rest of his 2014 was a complete disappointment. But yeah, this match was a nice way of continuing his momentum. RVD looked good. I mean, I think I can't remember exactly. I watched this a couple days ago, so my memory is not always great. I can remember long-term stuff, but not stuff I watched like a day ago. It's nuts. But yeah, I don't think they went hardcore. I think it was just kind of more elimination style. But it was a nice match, though. All three guys putting a good effort. It was a nice win for Cesaro, so a nice way of kicking off the show. Up next, a 2-on-1 handicap match, kind of playing off the Extreme Rules 2012 pay-per-view, how the handicap match with Ryback against two local athletes was technically extreme. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but it was on this show. Rusev not taking on two enhancement talent, or two local athletes, but these guys weren't much better. In R-Truth and Xavier Woods, he had defeated both guys in singles competition leading up to the show, 2-on-1 bout on the pay-per-view. Pretty throwaway match, it was pretty one-sided. Alexander Rusev, or Rusev as he would know to be called a little later on, just dominating R-Truth and Xavier Woods as he should have, picking up the win, quick swash victory, only about 3 minutes long, really nothing more notes other than that. The thing about Rusev too, and as I record this, obviously, we're only a few weeks shy of Payback, and I think it's not this upcoming Sunday, the week after, on May 17th. And what I love about Rusev and his build-up, I'm a sucker for a good build-up. I've talked about this before in the Q&A videos and whatever, that in order to make a superstar, in my opinion, you look at guys like even John Cena, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. A lot of these guys had good build-ups from either the tag team division or the undercard, whatever, to the mid-card, to the world title scene. Shit on John Cena all you want, but the guy went from an enhancement talent, a jobber, whatever, to a tag team guy with Bill Buchanan, to a mid-card guy, a 3-time United States champion, now 4-time, and then a multi-time, 15-time WWE champion. He has yet to leave the main event scene, of course, aside from right now, but you know what I mean, though. He's still a top-tier name. So I think with Rusev, although it was a bit rushed, and I don't think he should have faced John Cena at WrestleMania, now he might be a 3-time loser in a feud to Cena a year later. I do like the build-up with Rusev, that he went from he went from beating jobbers to somewhat credible people and Swagger and Henry, to the bigger names and Big Show and Ryback, and now John Cena. So I like the build-up of Rusev, and I don't think that gets enough credit as it deserves. The build-up that Rusev has gotten over the last year, going from a no-namer to one of the best heels in the entire show, in my opinion. So up next, another non-Extreme Rules match, which was ridiculous. They should have added some sort of stipulation to it. But for the Intercontinental Championship, Bad News Barrett contending against Big E. There wasn't really much of a build-up. Bad News Barrett had had won the tournament to become the new number one contender to the title, beating, I think, Sheamus in the opening round, I want to say. I think he beat Sheamus in the opening round. That was in the semifinals, I remember. Let me look. On Wiki, they have on the tournament itself. I know he beat RVD in the finals. Maybe Sheamus in the... He beat Sheamus in the semifinals. In the quarterfinals, he beat Dolph Ziggler. Okay. So he beat Ziggler, Sheamus, and RVD to get to this point. And Bad News Barrett coming out of WrestleMania, man, I tell you, the guy was red hot. And I was so pissed that he wasn't at WrestleMania in that Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which is probably for the better if he wasn't going to be winning it. And Cesaro did instead. And of course, we know how that turned out. But, Barrett returned to the ring the next night on Raw to an amazing reaction in front of his UK fans and the post-WrestleMania crowd, which is always rowdy, this year being no exception, last year being no exception. And from there, he beat Rey Mysterio within minutes. And in the next couple of weeks, as I said, he would win all his matches against Barrett. Against RVD, against Ziggler, against Sheamus. Winning the tournament, the guy was, on a major roll, and he finally won the championship. And I like Big E. I liked his reign as Intercontinental Champion. He had a number of solid title defenses. But the thing about Big E was that they kind of just lost direction for him, and then he just kind of floundered for like the second half of his reign. He was off to a strong start when he beat Axel for the title. And remember, there was one point, during one of his title defenses, they had done the in-ring introductions, they made it feel like a big deal. And then going into 2014, they had him lose all the time. I remember he lost to Del Rio on the Raw before WrestleMania, which went nowhere, and Del Rio never contended for the title. it was a complete waste of time. And I think Big E, I mean, at that time, I thought he could have been a big star. World champion, I thought so. I mean, maybe I was kind of pushing a little bit, but I thought Big E was really good. And he still is really good. But I just never really understood why they never took his reign more seriously than they did in its final months before he eventually dropped the belt to Bad News Barrett on the show. But the match itself was good, though. Really nothing too much of note. The crowd sided more with Barrett than they did Big E. And that's another thing, too. During Bad News Barrett's run, I mean, before he got injured, which was not anyone's fault. It's just, shit happens, of course. This guy suffers bad luck all the time. The best run that this guy ever had, aside from the Nexus thing, because even in Nexus he was badly booked, in this run as Intercontinental Champion, while not great, it was very good, and by far better than any other reign he had as IC Champion from 2011 to current day, to present day. He was winning most of his matches, not all of his matches from what I understand. He lost like a few matches here and there to like Dean Ambrose, and that's about it. Other than that, though, he was having good title defenses against Big E and the subsequent Raws, Dolph Ziggler, Rob Van Dam, and a few others as well. And he was going to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. I don't think he was going to win, but he still would have had a very nice showing. And the crowd was solidly behind him. They were doing the whole, I'm afraid I've got some bad news catchphrase, later prompting WWE to come out with his own shirt. When he came back, they just kind of fucked him over by having, not do the catchphrase anymore. He doesn't deliver bad news. I know he did maybe a couple weeks ago, but it was not really in the, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. It was more like, well, I've got some bad news. It's kind of like that, and they didn't really make a big deal about it because they don't want the crowd getting behind it, which was mind-boggling to me. If you want these people to get over, you'll let the fans embrace them. If the fans are going with it, just run with it and change plans. Shit happens. You got to go with what the fans want more often than not. If they're chanting for, I don't know, some guy that sucks or something, you don't just do that. You know what I mean, though. But in this case, they should have run with the momentum that Barrett was getting. When he came back, they should have turned him babyface. And I thought that was the route they were going in. When he came back, he beat Cesaro. He had a great reaction. The next week, he won the IC title in like shitty fashion with the help of the Authority. It was nuts. So that's my gripe with Bad News Barrett's booking. But, I digress. Going back to the match on the show, though. A good match with Big E, like I said, solid, nothing great, but a good match, got the job done. Bad News Barrett winning his 4th Intercontinental Championship on this show. Up next, and what I thought was the match of the night, which a lot of other people will probably agree as well. I loved this matchup. The Shield, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns, taking on the reformed Evolution, Batista, Randy Orton, and Triple H. Now going back to early 2013, so for me, this match was a year in the making, as well as for many others as well. Going back to 2013, I had said, after the Shield had knocked off the trio of Ryback and Team Hell No at TLC, to the trio of John Cena, Ryback, and Sheamus Elimination Chamber. From that point forward, I started saying that these three guys, the Shield, Ambrose, Rollins, and Reigns, were the best booked trio, or just the best trio, period, since Evolution 1 decade prior. And, a lot of people were always pitching the eventual dream match between Evolution and the Shield, but it never really seemed likely because the Shield, or Triple H, was babyface, the Shield was heels, and then Randy Orton was kind of floundering. He was a babyface. He and Triple H were never in the same role. Batista was far, far away from the company at that point in time. So it never seemed to come to fruition. But on the road to WrestleMania 30, they kind of teased it when Batista went heel and Orton joined the Authority, and they formed the Authority with Triple H at the helm of it. And then right after WrestleMania, they went full force with it, came back with the theme song and all, Evolution is a Mystery, and that great song by Motorhead. And I thought it was great. I mean, the live crowd that night when the music hit for the first time in like over a decade, they didn't seem to think so. I think they were in like fucking Kentucky or something, some terrible wrestling town. But still, I thought the reunion of Evolution, I put this out on Twitter not too long ago, was one of the more underrated things about 2014 WWE, in my opinion. I thought it was a great run. Sure, did they win any of their matches against the Shield? No. I mean, they had 2 matches, but both matches were amazing. And that's exactly the way it should have been. You don't have to win every single match you're a part of in order to be great. These guys were, more often than not, the Shield got the better of them, but their mic skills, just to see them, maybe it was just the nostalgia factor of it, because we never thought we would ever see this again, especially in an in-ring role. In all 3 guys, as they should have, put over the Shield as the next big thing, as the big thing, not the next big thing, the current big thing, of course, before they split like a month or 2 later. But I love the reunion that these 3 had. and their feud with the Shield. I thought it was great. The brawls they had were great. The matches were phenomenal. The promos were very, very good. Like I said, one of the more underrated parts of 2014 that doesn't often get the credit it deserves for being so good. So, needless to say, I love this matchup. Easily the match of the night for me. Rollins jumping from the fucking, I don't even know what you call it, from the guardrail or something on top of Triple H and Randy Orton near the crowd. Ambrose and Rollins, along with Triple H and Orton, went up to the crowd. They were brawling up there. And it was not an Extreme Rules 6-man tag team match. I mean, that would come at Payback, but it was not contested underneath the Extreme Rules, which is weird. It should have been the other way around, but whatever. They went out to the outside. They're brawling. You know, it was almost as great. I mean, it's really hard to say what the better match was between the Shield and the Wyatts and then Evolution and the Shield. I thought both matches were great, and I could never, ever decide which one was better, which one I liked more, I should say, between those two matches, if anyone was ever to ask me which I liked more. Because both feuds were great. Both matches were phenomenal. Two of the best matches of the fucking year in 2014 in WWE. Maybe just with the Wyatt family, just due to the anticipation. But the Evolution run for me, like I said, was something we thought we would never, ever see. And we got it not once, but twice. Because both matches not exceeded expectations. No one thought it was going to be bad. But it was just so surreal to see both trios in the same ring at the same time. And just dueling it out and having a great match. So I love this. And then in the ring, while Ambrose, Rollins, Triple H, and Orton are all just beating the shit out of each other in the crowd, Roman Reigns takes advantage of Batista in the ring, spears him for the 1-2-3, and gets the victory, giving the Shield the win. You know, it was at that point I stopped saying the Shield is the best group since Evolution. I started saying the group, that the Shield is better than Evolution. I mean, that's still up for debate. In my opinion, though, I mean, I'm not going to make this into a video about what faction was better, but you look at the string of matches that the Shield had and how they were like the highlight. Every single week, these three guys were the MVPs of Raw for almost 2 years. Evolution, while they dominated Raw for as long as they did, from 02 to 05, for the most part, I mean, I know various points in those 3 years, they weren't all together, and then Orton broke away, whatever, but you know what I mean, though. For the majority, Evolution was together from start to finish for about 3 years. From the moment that Triple H and Ric Flair joined forces to the moment they broke up. In those 3 years, while they dominated Raw, it wasn't... I mean, I thought the Ruthless Aggression era, in my opinion, was the best era in WWE history. Not the best, but it was my favorite anyway. And while Evolution was great, their matches were never phenomenal. Like, you know, Orton would have his great matches on his own. Triple H would have his great matches on his own. But they were never really known for being three guys collectively like an amazing 6-man tag team match. It was all in the singles accolades. It was the culmination, a combination of the four biggest names this business has ever seen in the last 10, 15, 20 years. You know, so that's why it was so great. And it was all about the aftermath, too, how it launched the careers of Orton and Batista. Those guys went from facing fucking Devon Dudley and Hardcore Holly on SmackDown in 02 to main eventing WrestleMania, you know, together, Orton and Batista together and WrestleMania 30, along with Triple H. So, you know, that was the thing with them. And then the Shield, it's only been a year, and the aftermath so far of all three guys has been great. Ambrose could be a little bit higher in the card, but the guy's still over like Rover. And then Roman Reigns won the Rumble, Rollins won the Money in the Bank, won the fucking WWE title, and 2/3 of the Shield was in the main event of WrestleMania this year. So that goes to show the success the Shield has had collectively and individually over the last year since their run together and since their split. But going back to the match itself, though, phenomenal match. There's really not much more I could say other than that. Just love the match, exceeded my expectations, which is saying something because I was so pumped for this going in. The Shield got the big win. They continued the feud going into the next pay-per-view of Payback with another awesome match. I enjoyed this one more, just ever so slightly, but it was still a fantastic match. Like I said, match of the night, go back and watch this pay-per-view for this match alone. Up next, in a complete 180, Bray Wyatt versus John Cena steel cage match. I don't want to shit on this match as much as I probably would want to, but I'm going to have to. The feud going in, the whole thing with Wyatt and Cena, it's really a roller coaster of a feud, because I was pumped for this feud going in WrestleMania. The video package, the Legacy song by Eminem, everything about the feud I thought was so good. And this is coming from someone that I didn't really want to see the feud going into WrestleMania. I thought it was way too quick for Bray Wyatt to be facing Cena at WrestleMania, and he lost anyway, which was obviously the wrong decision to make, which makes no fucking sense a year later. But I digress. And then in the weeks after, they kind of transitioned the feud from Cena trying to prove his legacy to Wyatt trying to bring the monster out of John Cena. And then at Extreme Rules, they get much like at WrestleMania, the story they told did not match the build. Instead of Wyatt trying to bring the monster out of John Cena, it was about whether John Cena could overcome the odds. So it was kind of mixed. The match at Extreme Rules was what we should have gotten at WrestleMania, and the match that we got at WrestleMania should have been what we got at Extreme Rules. It didn't make any sense. And not only that, I mean, Cena and Wyatt just don't have great chemistry together. It's weird because I thought they would. And they have just never had that great one-on-one chemistry. Like, the Payback match was the best of the three, but that's not to say that it was an amazing match. It was a really, really good match, made part, awesome due, in fact, part and due to the fact that the Usos were involved, Harper and Rowan were involved, it was last man standing, So it's really hard to say that these guys have had great chemistry, because they really don't. I mean, the stipulation kind of made that match a Payback. This match sucked. It was easily the worst of the three, and I'm not just going to shit on it just for the sake of shitting on it. I'm trying to criticize it, and I'm just pointing out what's wrong with it. First and foremost, the interference from the Wyatt family, from Harper and Rowan, was so over the top. And, the steel cage gimmick was already dead before this match. The steel cage is ridiculous. Like, Orton was made out to look like a goof this year when he selected the stipulation for the steel cage match for his match against Seth Rollins at Extreme Rules this year, because very, very rarely does it actually prevent interference. If anything, it welcomes interference. People climb over the cage, they go through the door. Then what's the fucking point? You probably get more interference in a steel cage match than you would in a regular one-on-one standard singles match. That's how flawed the WWE logic has become in 2015. It's nuts. And, whatever was going on in the ring was completely irrelevant because of the fact that Harper and Rowan were interfering every 10 seconds. Like, once or twice, I get it, but coming into the start of the match, the middle of the match, the ending of the match, it didn't make any sense. And worse yet, Wyatt was made to look so weak. Because, I know, like, he would have won with interference if he did win. And, say that the Wyatt family won and whatever, it's a heel move. But there was too much interference. Like, I get interference here and there. There shouldn't be any interference at all in a steel cage match. But if there's going to be any at all, it should be to a bare minimum. But it was way over excessive in this matchup. It was a real pain to watch this back. And then Cena kept on overcoming the odds. So he basically almost would have won had it not been for the fucking demon child in the cage door. He would have won this match. He would have beaten all three guys in a match that benefited Bray Wyatt. Or he was supposed to benefit John Cena. Although it didn't really matter anyway because Harper and Rowan kept on interfering. So a complete clusterfuck of a match. And I mentioned it before, the demon child thing. So stupid. I know they were trying to play off the child choir they were doing on the Raw before the show, which I thought was cool. It was a bit corny and over the top, but I thought it was really cool at the time. And it still is cool now when you think back on it and the visual and whatever. And the Wyatt and then the sheep masks. It could be a bit, silly, but I thought it was cool at that time. And they brought in the kid. It was like some wrestler's kid. I don't know who the fuck it was. And they had him do this monotone voice and this demon voice and scare John Cena back into the ring so Wyatt could pick up the win. It was so convoluted and so clusterfuck. It was a total train wreck of a match, if you couldn't already tell. It was just so stupid. And the worst part was that we never saw that kid again. Maybe they referenced it the next night on Raw, but other than that, it had no part in the remainder of the feud between Wyatt and Cena in the next year. It made no sense. It was so fucking dumb. But yeah, that was easily the worst part of the night, going from the best to the worst. And one of the worst matches of 2014, in my opinion. I thought this was so stupid that with all the interference, the ending, and Wyatt won, sure, like on Wiki right now, you will see Bray Wyatt beat John Cena. But anyone who saw that match knows that it was a complete fluke of a victory, and Cena ended up getting the better of Wyatt in the end, and that feud did nothing but harm Bray Wyatt. I don't care what anyone says. I know Bray Wyatt was in there with the face of the company, but you know what? So was Umaga. So was Great Khali. So was Tensai. So was every other guy in the last 10 fucking years, and a lot of those guys went nowhere. So that's not an excuse. I don't care if he was in there with John Cena. That doesn't make it right. Sometimes it is. It is a nice rub if he's made to look strong in defeat, but none of these guys were. And the aftermath had to be there, and the aftermath was not all John Cena's fault. It's not John Cena's fault. I'm blaming the booking. It's not all his fault. It's mostly the creative side, but it is what it is. We move on to the next matchup for the Divas Championship. Paige defending against Tamina Snuka. And this was around the time that, this still happens now, and this might happen this year, if I recall correctly, that they put the Divas title match in the buffer slot, in the death slot, as a lot of people like to call it, because it's right after a big-time match and right before another big-time match. And that's basically what Divas matches have become in the last I don't know, since ECW died 5-6 years ago. So, I mean, it sucks, but it just is the way it is. And for this match, it kind of deserved that slot anyway. It's not like these two were going to go out and steal the show. There really was no feud at all. I mean, AJ got beat for the belt the night after WrestleMania, which I thought was an amazing angle. I loved it. I was so excited. And she disappears for the next 3 months, and which was okay. I understood she deserved her time off after being champion for like 10 or 11 months or something like that. And she had never gotten time off up to that point. So she leaves. In her place was Tamina Snuka contending for the gold. And that was it. Tamina won like a battle royal, a main event, and to win like the number one contender slot. And that was about it. They never really did anything else to make this matchup matter. Maybe like a face-off on Raw or something, or SmackDown. Something as small as that, but it did nothing to, help, get people excited about the match. It was a good match, too. It was a fine match. Paige, a great worker, obviously. Tamina Snuka is very good as well. But with no story, nobody cared, and that's why Paige's title run was not, as good as it possibly could have been the first time around. The second time, I thought it was fine, although it didn't last long. This title reign, while it was good, it lasted about 2-3 months, but the biggest issue with it was that all of her title defenses didn't mean anything. With Paige as the babyface and her heel challengers, and Naomi stepped up to challenge for the belt at one point. Just, I don't know, it didn't really click. She wasn't clicking as a babyface as she is right now, because she had no character development. We knew nothing about her aside from that she came out from NXT, beat AJ for the belt, and that was it. So that's why her title reign kind of flopped. And it was a good match, like I said, and Paige won by submission. And also the fact that it should have been some sort of Extreme Rules. Like I said, there was no feud going into it, but they should have still added a stipulation just for the hell of it. Because given the pay-per-view, a submission match, kind of benefits both girls in this case. Benefits both girls, Tamina and Paige. But they didn't do it. Fine match, kind of buffer though. Just more of a time killer before the main event. So we get to the main event for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Kane, yes, in 2014, contending for the title in the Extreme Rules match against Daniel Bryan. So a lot of people weren't really looking forward to the match itself. Kane in the world title match in 2014 was a big turnoff, as it should have been. Even with the mask on, Kane should not be main eventing pay-per-views, in 2014. I get it maybe in 2011 or 2012 early on when he was doing the thing with Cena, but contending for the title when there's so much other fresh blood in the roster, it was kind of a waste. But at the very least, though, at least in the end, Daniel Bryan was going over. There was never a discussion. There was never any hint of Kane winning that title. And the only reason was because most of the top heels at that time were all busy. Like Wyatt was busy with Cena and all the three. You had three main event guys right there, and Batista, Orton, and Triple H, all busy with the Shield thing. So it was understandable, and I was kind of surprised it was in the main event. I figured the Shield match would take the main event, or Cena Wyatt. Thank God that didn't close the show. And we got Bryan and Kane. A lot of people were worried that, if Bryan Kane doesn't main event, then it will be exactly like Punk's reign. I mean, one pay-per-view, chill out, people, was not going to make Bryan's reign completely irrelevant. But still, it was a really, really good match. For an Extreme Rules match, they incorporated the forklift backstage. They went all around the arena. They incorporated for like 2 seconds. But Kane was on the apron, and Bryan, I think it was Kane, but Bryan was the one who effectively used it. Kane was in the apron. Bryan pushed him through a flaming table at ringside, and they were very, very safe about it. The outside ringside personnel immediately put out the fire, so it did not last long at all. But it was still a cool visual, considering the fact that we do not often see fire in WWE. If we haven't seen any at all, I can't remember the last time before that we saw fire used in that fashion in quite some time. So that was a pretty cool visual, incorporating steel chairs and everything else. It was a really good match. The feud was, really nothing special, and Bryan would eventually get hurt, and had he not gotten hurt, he probably would have gone on to defend against Batista or something like that at Money in the Bank, or whoever, before he faced Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. So his reign obviously did not go as planned. But for a main event for the championship, involving Kane of all people, I thought it was a really good match. I enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining. Bryan coming out victorious with a clean victory. The feud should have ended there, and it didn't, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a really entertaining match. I liked it. Bryan went over, still your champion. A very enjoyable way, a very good way, a high note of going off the show with. So on the whole, as I mentioned at the start, I thought this was a very, very good show. Good to great show. I mean, nothing was going to beat WrestleMania 30. Much like Extreme Rules 2015, nothing was going to top WrestleMania 31 after the both amazing events that those shows were. But still, I thought, as the follow-up show to that, up to that amazing WrestleMania, and kind of solidifying a sense of change in WWE, even in the fucking pre-show, El Torito had debuted in 2013, beating the the debuted in 07 Hornswoggle, the 2007 Hornswoggle, Even in the pre-show, it showed that all the newcomers had arrived. The future had arrived. The future is here. The future is now. And that's has never been any more evident than it is right now in 2015, but it was also evident about a year ago, too. The times be a-changing with all the people that debuted in 2010 and after that, all winning on the show. So I thought that was great. A nice little touch. Not all that noteworthy, aside from the crowning of a new Intercontinental Champion, but from an in-ring action standpoint, a strong show. Cesaro, RVD, and Swagger putting together a nice, solid, entertaining opener. Rusev, R-Truth, Woods, and the handicap match was exactly what it should have been, and gave Rusev a nice little win. I mean, it wasn't really anything of note, but it was a nice way of getting him on the show. Barrett and Big E, good match. Shield and Evolution, as I mentioned earlier, if there's any one match you should watch from the show, it's this one, an exceptional matchup and easily one of the best of the year in my opinion. Better than their Payback match, but not by much, but still fantastic match. Wyatt and Cena was the only true blemish on the show. If anything, at least Bray Wyatt won. I mean, he was made to look extremely weak in defeat, but at least he won, so there was that. And then Paige and Snuka, Paige and Tamina having a decent match, and then Bryan and Kane having a more entertaining match than they had any right to. So on the whole, very good show. I'd give it 2 thumbs up. Would definitely recommend that you go back and watch it on the WWE Network, although Extreme Rules 2015 has come and gone. Definitely would recommend that you go back and check it out at some point this week. Extreme Rules 2014. So on that note, folks, that's going to conclude my reviews of Extreme Rules. Been a lot of fun watching these pay-per-views back. As I mentioned earlier, the Extreme Rules shows have always been great. Dating back to 2008 when we had One Night Stand, Extreme Rules, to the most recent installment in 2015, which I'm not reviewing, by the way. So don't expect a 2015 Extreme Rules review on Saturday. My written review of that show, as well as the 2014 show, 2013, 2012, whatever, for the last couple of years, they're all on nextairwrestling.net, as well as on WrestleRant Radio. We do audio reviews of all the pay-per-views, of all the Raws, whatever, so make sure to check out those 2 things. My thoughts on this year's show, because I usually like to wait, there's a threshold for about a year, because there's no point talking about it 2 weeks later. There's got to be like the aftermath, like I talked about before, which I spent most of this review talking about, the build-up and the aftermath, so I like to wait a little while. So then there's going to be no review of Extreme Rules 2015 just yet until next year. But in the meantime, in between time, though, you can come back on Saturday and check out my review of Judgment Day 1999. So a brief overview here, because a lot of people ask me about this. In terms of upcoming reviews here on the show, on WrestleRant going forward, I've already booked it out. I've already scheduled it out for the next 3 or 4 months. So for the remainder of the month of May, I think it's most of May, I'm reviewing Judgment Day from 99 to 2009. After that, I think it's my reviews of Payback 2013 and 2014. Then Money in the Bank from 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014, excuse me, I almost lost my voice. I've just been talking for half an hour. Jesus. But yeah, Money in the Bank 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014. Right after Payback, after Judgment Day. And then from there, I'll be reviewing SummerSlam, every single installment that I have not already reviewed. I think I already talked about 1988, but from 1989 onward until 2014. So that's the WrestleRant schedule breakdown through August. So a lot of great stuff. And I think by the time my SummerSlam reviews come around, my WrestleRant videos will be released only twice a week and not 3 times a week. I enjoy watching the pay-per-view. Sometimes it gets to be too much when I have to record 3 times a week and not twice, in addition to all the other content that's going up here on the channel. So that might be pushed back a little bit, kind of held back to only 2 episodes a week and not 3. But still, you can go back and check out all my other reviews here on the channel. #AskGSM, the video blogs on Friday, WrestleRant, radio excerpts, and everything else. So make sure to subscribe for that. Leave a comment, like. Make sure to share the video as well. That's how we spread the word and spread awareness of the channel. You can find me on Twitter at WrestleRant, on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. And as I mentioned earlier, for my written review of all these pay-per-views and much, much more, so much other content at nextairwrestling.net. Have a great week, folks, and I'll catch you back here on Saturday for my review of 1999 Judgment Day.